Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Higurashi when they cry outbreak. Keiichi and the others face a brand new tragedy. The mysterious virus and the panic it creates are such laughable sights. The difficulty is average. Is this the beginning of the end? Or has it already reached its conclusion? It is your job to witness that. Day 1. This is the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. As of 4 o'clock today, we have over 100 today, we have quarantined the Hinamizawa region and other surrounding regions as designated by the prefectural governor. We ask that all the residents of these areas please remain indoors and await for further instructions. Please use your televisions, radios, and the disaster management radio system to stay informed. You will not be permitted to leave this district until we can confirm it is medically safe to do so. We repeat, you will not be permitted to leave this district. Any who do not comply with this will be dealt with according to national law. So everyone, we must ask that you please return to your homes and remain calm. It was really hard to hear the rough voice over the roar of their camouflaged helicopter. Have discovered the outbreak of previously unknown virus. This virus has been classified as one of the most hazardous viruses by the World Health Organization. Several government sources have already confirmed an offer from the American government to provide emergency assistance in developing a vaccine. We believe our government has already begun preparations to accept their aid. This virus has an incubation period stretching 30 to 50 days, and they are scrambling to secure enough vaccine for the 2,000 quarantine residents. At the present time, all phone lines to the Hinamizawa district are flooded, and reaching anyone within is nearly impossible. The current congestion is making it difficult to Prefecture's Disaster Prevention Center to ascertain the exact situation. Furthermore, a ban on tap water and well water has been put in place. Please do not consume any water except that provided by the SDF water trucks. In addition, illegally parking on any roads will hinder the disaster relief efforts. Please relocate your vehicles at once. Representative Unabara of the Democratic Socialist Party has criticized the avoidance of proper procedures in ordering the dispatch of SDF disaster relief, strongly voicing his opinion that this is a step backwards towards militarism, which could lead to further isolation of our nation within the Asian political community. This is the Prefecture Disaster Prevention Center. At 12 o'clock today, we shall conduct simultaneous medical examinations in the following locations. Please follow the instructions of your town or neighborhood council as you assemble there. Please make certain you get examined unless you have extenuating circumstances. If you notice any symptoms of illness, you must. This is the JGSDFD. By order of the prefectural governor, this region has been quarantined to prevent the further spread of disease. You are not permitted to leave the quarantine zone. We promise to secure food, water, and other daily necessities, electricity and communication systems for everyone. Please continue to remain calm. All of a sudden one day, the peaceful boredom of everyday life was shattered. I doubt anyone woke up today expecting it to be any different from an ordinary early summer morning. The sky was just as blue as ever, and the sun rose just as it always did. Yet the helicopters flying at low altitudes with their speakers blaring, and the sight of traffic backed up at a blockade on the main road into the city was enough to let everyone know that this morning was anything but normal. By the time it was broadcast in the morning news, the confusion had already settled down to a degree. The residents of Hinamizawa couldn't act like this was all happening in some distant city as they listened to the emergency broadcasts, because there was no doubt that this emergency was happening in the very town we lived in. I stirred restlessly in my bed, like I usually did, before eventually crawling out, and once I came down to our dining room, I found my parents glued to the television, which is where I learned the news, peeking over their shoulders. I wondered just how many villagers muttered the same thing I did at first. What? What's going on? Keiichi, it's awful. Listen, they've discovered a horrible disease here in Hinamizawa, and they've quarantined the whole village. This is terrible. When do you think they're going to let us go? I need to head out for a meeting tomorrow for the event in Osaka. Quarantined. And we can't go into town either. Looks like it. They said they'd provide food, but this is a real pain. We barely have anything in our refrigerator since today's, when they have that special sale down in Okonomiya. More importantly, what is this virus anyway? It has to be pretty dangerous if they're quarantining the whole region, right? What's going on? Are we infected too? Shh. They're explaining it on TV right now. Once the initial signs appear, the following symptoms develop over the following week. Our entire family. No. I'm sure everyone in the village went speechless as that footage played. A small African village was completely annihilated, and the terrible spectacle was almost too gory to look at. Given the unrecognizable state of the resulting corpses, the people out of this dangerous reach were being irresponsible in satisfying their urge to spectate watching this footage of the harm dealt by this mysterious, heretofore unknown virus. But for those of us directly faced with this crisis, it was far too real and far too terrifying. I suddenly glanced up at the clock and saw that it was long past time for me to meet up with Rena, and I was already late. Normally Rena would have come to pick me up directly if it was over 5 minutes past our meeting time, but that didn't happen this morning, of course not. I'm sure Rena's also glued to the TV along with her family right about now. Either that, or maybe she's currently infected with this mysterious virus and is suffering under its symptoms. The moment that thought reached my mind, I started worrying about not just her, but Mion, Satoko, and Rika-chan as well. I ran for our telephone in the hallway on impulse and tried dialing a number, but I didn't even hear the usual dial tone. It made sense. The whole village and the population of those outside relatives area probably went for the receivers all at once, just as I had. It was reasonable to assume that the phone lines couldn't keep up. That left me wanting to visit them, to make sure of their safety in person, but the whole village could be full of pockets of that dangerous virus, Wouldn't it be suicide to barge outdoors in that case? Keiichi, come here. Quickly. My dad was just coming out of his atelier. His arms were full of cardboard boxes. From what I could see, they were packed full of duct tape, wrapped in unopened vinyl bags. Apparently my dad had them in stock to use with his paintings or something. I didn't even question why he had grabbed duct tape in this emergency. I understood immediately why my dad was calling for me to help. Keiichi, you cover the second floor. Shut the windows tight and seal them up with duct tape. Our air conditioner might be connected to the air outside too. Cover the AC vents with newspaper. Then seal them up with duct tape. I'll cover the first floor. Your mom can cover the kitchen. Dear, it's too late for any of that. Duct tape won't do anything to keep microorganisms out. It'll still make a small difference. Just help already. My dad's tone made it clear that he wasn't going to suffer any objections, but my mom was right. She was being relatively calm given the situation. Viruses are tiny organisms, smaller than even dust. So it was pretty delusional to think that sealing up openings with store-bought duct tape could keep them out. At the same time, I understood how my dad was feeling too. It was just so sudden. Even if there was no scientific backing to his beliefs, and even though it wouldn't make any difference, he still had to try and do something to stop it. That would comfort his mind far more than just sitting in front of the television. Whenever my mom, oddly stubborn, and my father, wildly emotional, start arguing like that, I go up to the second floor to avoid them. My mom was right. I knew we couldn't really do anything to prevent infection. But I shared my dad's desire to do something about it, even if it was just for my own peace of mind. I looked out the window. The grand sight before me was a view I took pride in, one that moved me deeply when I first arrived here. The magnificent scenery itself was the same view as always of Hinamizawa's beautiful, traditional buildings. Yet today there was no sight of any villagers. I couldn't spot a single villager out working the paddy fields. I was certain that the stubborn old farmers wouldn't ditch their work even today, but that silly hope of mine was shattered. To be honest, that made me realize I was hoping to find solace in the sight of them carrying on like normal. Even the most stubborn of the village elders weren't out working their fields. Maybe they were afraid of getting infected with the virus, or maybe they were afraid of another villager thinking they were infected instead. In that sense, my dad's amateur idea of trying to keep the virus out with duct tape might be the more normal response, instead of questioning its effectiveness like my mom was doing. The village was shrouded in a silent fear. The only sounds to be heard were the voices over the disaster management radios and the roar of the SDF's helicopters. Those sounds only served to make the silence more chilling. Normally the chorus of the cicadas would be starting around this time, but their chorus didn't reach the village's ears. Day 2. With the water supply shut off, we couldn't use our flush toilet. The SDF relief squad had set up portable bathrooms, but since my dad was strongly opposed to using them, the Mabara family continued to use our flush toilet without any running water. We had kept our bath water to use for laundry, so we were managing by scooping that into the basin and flushing it away. According to my dad, the excrement of disease carriers would just be full of viruses, so he refused to let our family go out and use the public bathrooms, saying that was the same as going and getting ourselves infected. We didn't have that much water left in our bathtub, though, so we couldn't keep using a flush toilet without water forever. To make matters worse, since the virus involved here has a 1-month incubation period, it wasn't hard to imagine the quarantine around Hinamizawa would last even longer than that. By my mom's quick estimate, the quarantine was likely to last 3 months, 3 whole months. It was the end of June, so the quarantine wouldn't be lifted until the end of September, or maybe even October. That meant that the whole summer of 1983 was going to be cut away from Hinamizawa, it was very tragic for us. On the first day, we were caught up in the fear that the virus was everywhere outside our house, but then the water trucks and relief supplies arrived thanks to the SDF, and once their doctors started their group examinations, we couldn't afford to stay completely shut inside any longer. Some people, like my dad, still refused to go outside even then, but they steadily started coming outside over time, both to secure necessities and assuage their fears of infection by having the doctors examine them. The same went for me. I couldn't stand staying cooped up in our creepy house with its duct-taped shutters, silently watching the television with no one but my family around. I was much more anxious to go outside and check on my friends' well-being. My dad continued to be stubborn about holing in the house, so my exasperated mom and I went to the group examinations together. The town council our family fell under had decided to conduct the examinations in the schoolyard. Lots of the villagers had gathered there, and we were all lined up according to the divisions used for the council's newsletters. The disparity between the villagers in their normal clothes and the doctors covered head to toe in a white raincoat-like suit was very unsettling. It was clear evidence that they suspected us all of being carriers of the virus. Ah, Kiichi-kun. Oh, Rena, thank goodness you're safe. Yeah. I just ran into Mi-chan. She was looking healthy too. Really? What about Satoko and Rika-chan? They're in a different division, so I think they had to go somewhere else. I've tried calling them a few times, but I can't get through. I tried calling several times too, but I had no luck at all. I guess the phone lines are just too congested to handle it. I heard a rumor that there was someone in a car who wouldn't listen to the SDF's directions, so they had an accident and crashed into a telephone pole, cutting the lines out completely, but another person said the government had switched them over to authorized use only, so the average citizen can't use them right now. Long story short, everyone's confused, and the information's all mixed up, huh? Right after I said that, someone smacked me hard in the back. It was Mion. K-chan, great to see you're safe. That's my line. I'm glad to see you're safe too. Mion made a big show of wiping her tears away, enjoying our reunion after only a scant few days. There's no need to explain it at this point, I think, but the old customs here meant Hinamizawa was governed by 3 ancient clans, known as the Three Families. Right now, Mion's family, the Sonozaki family, was the head of that organization. According to Mion, the Sonozaki family was already taking the initiative and leading the unified town council to try and settle the whole situation. They were also working together with the government and the SDF, so they had information that regular villagers didn't know about. Mion, be blunt with us. What's going on? Has this virus really infected all of the villagers? According to this morning's explanation, the likelihood of that is pretty slim. From what they've said, the infected showed up over in Takatsuto, and hardly anyone lives over there. Since the quarantine was set up so quick, they're saying they don't think it's reached the Hinamizawa area yet. Once they can confirm everyone in Hinamizawa is clean, then they're hopeful that they can start lifting the quarantine in stages. I hope that's true. I feel bad for those living in Takatsuto, but it'll be nice if Hinamizawa's quarantine ends sooner. That was when Mion gave us a sharp look. Then she grabbed my head and ran us, pulling us in close to her own. Then she whispered so quietly that only we could hear. But I don't think we can be that optimistic, actually. I'm able to use a radio myself, you know. I modified mine to pick up transmissions from the police and the SDF. From what I'm hearing there, this isn't that simple. After all, Hinamizawa is a pretty isolated village all by itself here in the mountain range. They don't have a clue how this virus managed to transmit itself here from overseas. So far, none of the infected people. The government has discovered any history of traveling outside of the country, so now they're investigating the travel history of everyone in the village, wondering if there might be another carrier. So you're saying that someone got infected while in a different country and brought this back to our village? Yeah, apparently there's some leeway in its incubation period. They can't rule out the chance that whoever brought it here is still incubating the disease. Let me guess, it's Keiichi's dad, since he does travel quite a bit for his job. Also, there's no guarantee that the person ever traveled abroad at all. There's still a chance they got infected when they came in contact with a carrier from outside the village. After all, there's a good chance. I mean, that would make some pretty good sense. After all, even if Keiichi's dad didn't travel outside the country, he goes to lots of business meetings with people that are from other countries or traveling very much themselves, too. Worst cases? By my guess, the quarantine zones won't be limited to just Hinamizawa. Worst case is that the quarantine zone could extend to the prefecture, or even to this whole part of the country. How can this be? Also, this is just between us, but there's talk that this one might be different from the African killer virus they mentioned on TV. What do you mean? I'm not sure either, but some of the chatter I'm picking up on the radio suggests that they suspect this whole virus crisis might be caused by an endemic disease native to Hinamizawa. You mean some killer virus that has been hiding in Hinamizawa for years? That does make sense, though. If there were an endemic virus that's only possible in Hinamizawa, yes, it can't travel from Hinamizawa, but it would be remiss to say that there would be no other environments in the world similar to Hinamizawa. So one could then expect that even if it's not from Hinamizawa, that the same way about the endemic brain ants, brainworms thing started in Hinamizawa, it could have just naturally sprung up in other parts of the world as well. I'm not sure either. The only thing I do know is that there is an old legend still passed around here that talks about something impure rising from the swamp and attacking the village. Makes you wonder whether something's risen up out of there again. I mean, usually anything that... There's like tons of viruses and bacteria that exist in lots of places in the world, and there's parts that are in the remote areas of the world that haven't been in contact with humans for a long time. Heck, we're constantly reviving old species of bacteria in Antarctica. We're finding stuff deep underwater, or in remote parts of mountains. Heck, when intercontinental travel first started, lots of things like measles, syphilis, all that stuff. I don't think Europe got any syphilis at all until intercontinental stuff. I think it came from another part of the world. And of course, North America had never seen measles or smallpox before. Heck, there was the cholera epidemics of the 1800s. Early, I think 1918, we had, was it Spanish flu? But nowadays everyone's had the flu like a couple dozen times in their life. But back then it was a much more serious deal. The human body just wasn't that broadly adapted for it. Heck, someone brought the poison ivy plant over to North America because they thought it was cute. Like, oh, this is pretty, I like this plant. Yeah, the poisonous plant. That now is everywhere. But Heck, I've never been to Japan, but I would expect if I go there I'd probably be sick for a couple months, just because I'll be getting used to different things that my immune system aren't used to. But Michan, if that's true, then we can rest easy. I mean, the village wasn't wiped out all those years ago, right? Which means it's far less lethal than the virus they're talking about on TV that wipes out whole villages. According to the myths of old Onikafushi, anyone possessed by the impurity of the swamp became a demon. In the end, the villagers couldn't do anything, and they were all at their wits' end until Oyashiro-sama descended before them. Which means the village couldn't escape that disaster without help. Until a miracle occurred. I still say oxytocin's the cure to Hinamizawa syndrome. Exactly. If not for that miracle, the village would have been wiped out. It seems there were a lot of older villagers who believed this whole virus commotion was Oyashiro-sama's curse. I could see them here, and they're going through rosaries and offering prayers up as they begged for forgiveness. That commotion would settle down if Rika-chan, the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, would just deny that it's a curse. My granny's trying to explain that to the people from the SDF right now. Well, I doubt outsiders can understand what Rika-chama means to this village. Yeah. The superstitions aside, it would be a relief to see Rika-chan and Satoko myself. That's right. Hinamizawa has a unique religion that worships a guardian deity known as Oyashiro-sama. Central to that faith was the legend of Oyashiro-sama's curse. So there were a lot of villagers conflating that curse with the current commotion. That was why everyone wanted to see Rika Furude, who was considered to be Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation, alive and healthy. And hear her proclaim that this commotion had nothing to do with Oyashiro-sama. It was the first emergency situation of this manner that the village had faced. No one had yet to recover from the shock to their heart, and they wanted something to cling to. But even if the village was ruled by a superstition, it was still part of modern 20th century Japan, so of course they wanted to respond calmly without mulling about in confusion. So many had decided for themselves that as long as they saw Rika Furude safe and sound, then they would regain their composure. That also meant that if they couldn't see Rika Furude, then they would remain lost in their superstitions. Day 10. Without school, I had completely lost my sense for what day it is. So the television programming was all that barely maintained my sense of daily life. For the first few days, the television only covered what they dubbed the Hinamizawa virus outbreak and the resulting quarantine. Once the 10th day had passed, the news only mentioned it when something special was happening. As far as the public was concerned, some minister or another hadn't cut his golf game short when the Hinamizawa crisis happened or something, so they quibbled over that, which led to queries into his secretary's salary or something. All completely pointless stuff, so long as it wasn't brought up in the news. Society probably deluded themselves into believing the virus crisis was resolved. I couldn't help but realize how coldly society gorged itself on the misfortune of others. By this point, most villagers had gotten over their hesitation to go outside, at least to collect supplies and such. Lately, Mion's been wondering if it's not just our village being quarantined, but Okonomiya as well. We didn't have to go into town to shop, and some had started joking that it was much easier with water and food all being delivered for free. I'd force a smile at that, but I couldn't shake the sense of entrapment brought on by the quarantine lasting 10 days already. The same went for Mion. She sounded light-hearted and carefree on the surface, but Mion couldn't shake the anxiety from her expression either. With the way things were, staying at home wasn't helping. If I was at least talking to someone, I could distract myself. I even started volunteering to help carry the plastic tanks of drinking water. Excited at the chance to see my friends by the water supply. Of course, it wasn't like it was fun, though. When we saw each other, we only shared our anxieties. But even so, it was still far better than huddling under a blanket all by myself. Kei-chan! You look well. Got any strange spots? Mi-chan, that's not funny. Mion? And Rena too. Thank goodness the phones are still out as usual. So seeing you here is a relief. Yeah. Lately I've been wishing they'd reopen the school. How... If the school were to reopen, then we could all think back on our peaceful everyday lives and do our best to pretend everything was fine. But I guess not. If I recall, Chie-sensei lives in Okonomiya, so they can't reopen the school if she can't get there because of the quarantine. Haha, well, it's not so bad since school's closed over this unprecedented disaster. We should take the chance to enjoy living free like this. Mion's personality was truly valuable in times like this. She could get the conversation going easily and make it as light as our usual everyday chatter. But in the end, she brought the conversation back to our worries about our current situation. Oh right, Rena, Kei-chan. Don't get upset, but listen. This is just between us, okay? Mion drew us both behind cover and lowered her voice to a whisper. What? What is it, Mi-chan? Have you learned something new? The SDF gave us a good enough explanation when the quarantine first started, but lately they haven't made any more announcements about the ongoing situation. That meant we were left with nothing but rumors and word of mouth. But since we were further isolated based on how we were divided under the council, the villagers had limited interaction with each other. And even those rumors weren't able to get around well enough. Fortunately enough, our village had a decent amount of amateur radio fans, so they were using their radios to contact each other. Mion was one of those people using a radio to check how the other quarantine areas were doing, trying to get a grasp on the full state of Hinamizawa. Well, our phone lines still haven't recovered, so the radios are really crucial in times like these. So, did you learn anything? Yes. Well, it sounds like it's true that Rika-chan's been taken into custody, and no one knows what's going on with her. She took a brief pause after that. The Sonozaki family had been strongly requesting that Rika Furude go around the village so they could wipe away any fears of Oyoshiro-sama's curse, but those demands kept getting ignored. The SDF didn't want a carrier traversing the village and spreading infection, so they kept each council area strictly isolated, and so none of the villagers could find out how Rika Furude was doing, which only stirred their anxieties up even more. If anything were to happen to her, the reincarnation of Oyoshiro-sama, then that could only mean one thing: the end of the village, as passed down in legend. That fear had finally reached its logical conclusion. If they couldn't get information on Rika Furude, then something had happened to her, and the SDF was trying to cover it up. That fear had made its way into rumor. Everyone denied those rumors, of course, but the only way to get rid of them was for the villagers to see Rika Furude safe and sound. And that wasn't happening, though. So the villagers' collective anxiety was only growing stronger. What do you mean, no one knows how Rika-chan's doing? Are you saying Rika-chan got hit by the virus? Shh! You're being too loud. I don't know if it was the virus, but either way, she was taken into custody by the disease control squad, and she hasn't been seen since. No one knows if she's safe. Several different people witnessed her being taken away, so that's certain at least. When did that happen? The day of the quarantine. And Satoko-chan? She lives with Rika-chan, so, well, if Rika-chan fell victim to the virus, then as her housemate, Satoko would have. I don't have any info on that. Figures. The elders of the village may care about Rika-chan, but they've never wanted anything to do with Satoko. Do you think Satoko-chan was taken into custody too? Doesn't sound like it, though. I think it's just basic disease control to suspect infection in anyone living with an infected person. From what I've been hearing on the radio, only Rika-chan was taken in. Satoko wasn't, apparently. Also, this part sounds kind of strange, but strange. Yeah. So, you know how Satoko's parents were in favor of the dam being built, right? And how afterward they died in an accident due to Oyoshiro-sama's curse. You're talking about the rumor that Satoko-chan and the Hojo family are cursed and hated by Oyoshiro-sama. Yeah. There has always been a horrible group of people that said that. Living with a cursed person like Satoko would cause her taint to pass on to the holy reincarnation Rika-chan. And now those people are starting to say this is Oyashiro-sama's curse, that Satoko is to blame. What? That's stupid as hell. Those jerks will blame Satoko at the drop of a hat. Of course it's nonsense. But people in the other areas are starting to say they might be able to quell Oyashiro-sama's anger by binding up Satoko and sinking her into the swamp. And they're talking like they believe it too. No way! Are we savages now? I thought we were civilized. It's only been a week since our daily routines were broken, and we're already talking about drowning people in swamps? Rena's indignation was justified. But, thinking back on it, Hinamizawa was possessed by such strange beliefs long before this whole virus commotion. Hinamizawa had never shown any proof it was a civilized land. The people there simply acted that way, but once you tore away that facade, they quickly revealed themselves as adherents to some truly bizarre delusions. Judging from your expression, Mion, you're not going to tell us this was some joke all along, right? Mion's silence and downcast stare affirmed it as true. Of course, I've told them that they need to calm down over the radio. But they're not listening to me at all. Shit. If Rika-chan has been taken into custody, that means Satoko is currently living in that storage hut all by herself. She's in danger if they try to pull anything, isn't she? True. There's only so much Satoko-chan can do by herself. Wouldn't it be better to shelter her in our area, wouldn't it? Rena's suggestion was a good one. If we left Satoko alone like this, then those caught up in those wild fantasies might go after her. But whose home would we settle her in? According to Mion. The rumors that Satoko was already infected with the virus are being spread as though they're true. Word of mouth, that primitive means of communication, was all Hinamizawa had. It was easy for rumors to work their way into such communication. And because of the mass psychology, people convince themselves those statements are true, embellishing them even further until they become established fact. At that point, the truth won't matter. Satoko will effectively become one of the infected. Once that happens, whichever home takes her in will face the same treatment. It went without saying, but Mion's home and the Sonozaki family were already on bad terms with Satoko and the Hojo family. It would be extremely difficult for Mion's family to shelter Satoko. What about my family? My mother would probably understand, but considering the fact that my father is still obstinately refusing to expose himself to the outdoors, I couldn't imagine him taking Satoko. He sounds kind of paranoid. I wonder if Kei-chan's dad is patient 0, or at least patient, 1. Guess, like I said, he probably got it from somebody at his business meetings. I couldn't imagine him taking Satoko in. Yeah, I know it's impossible for your families, so if we do end up sheltering Satoko-chan, I'll shelter her in my home. Don't worry. I won't let my father voice any objections. I had no idea why, but Ren held control of her family's finances, so if she got serious, she could make her father give in. It made me sad that I couldn't stick my chest out and say my family could too, and I hated that she just assumed it wasn't possible, but I couldn't do anything about that. It's not like that pride would matter in this situation. All right. If we can make contact with Satoko, we'll tell her to head to Rena's home. I wish I could reach out to her myself, but from what you've told us, Mion, it sounds like the area around Satoko's house is dangerous. That's because there's a lot of strong believers who live around there, but, to be honest, Satoko's not the only problem. Depending how it goes, both of you two could be in trouble too. Mion's eyes grew even sharper, looking back and forth between me and Rena. Even though she was worried about Satoko, the chill in her gaze was enough to shred the naive thought that at least we would be safe. I mentioned this the other day, right? The rumors that the virus might be indigenous to Hinamizawa? Those rumors are starting to gain a lot of traction. Some are even saying every villager has probably been infected for hundreds of years. But that's just crazy. If that were true, then people would have been dying every day way back when. Well, the ones insisting on that argument have an interesting idea. They're saying that the virus remains stable and harmless as so long as you stay in the village. They go even further, arguing that the families who have lived in this village for many, many years are all born with an immunity that keeps them safe. I don't get it. So what? Are you telling me they're saying that people like Ren and I, who moved here from outside, are a risk because we don't have that immunity? That's exactly it. They're saying our harmony, or whatever, with the virus is collapsing, because of the people moving into Hinamizawa, and that's making the virus go crazy in everyone. Nah. You're not telling us you believe such an outrageous idea too, are you, Mi-chan? Of course not. There's no way I'd fall for anything that sounds that crazy. But, for some reason everyone else believes it. I don't get it at all. Normally when no one would ever believe such stupid nonsense, but these past few days, those weird ideas and rumors are being passed around like they're just common sense. I've been listening on the radio since the very first day, but lately the villagers are believing weirder and weirder stuff. I don't know if it's mental stress or trauma or whatever, but calling it that is optimistic at this point. These lies and rumors are running rampant, but no one is doing anything to stop them. If anyone tries, they can be treated as one of the infected too. It's getting really awful around here. Something's not right with people, so watch yourselves. Ren and I were both left speechless by Mion's desperation. It was clearly a good thing that we weren't able to listen to what she's picked up over the radio. Thrust into these abnormal circumstances, their frustration had reached its peak, and that along with their anxieties and fears founded on faith were producing new rumors one after another, and it was steadily approaching the point where someone would have to be sacrificed in order to clear those rumors away. Judging from Mion's expression, we were already approaching that critical moment. That was the moment I first realized it. That there was clear hostility in the looks the villagers gave us as we talked to each other. Apparently it wasn't just my imagination either. Rena was quick to pick up on that too. Keiichi-kun, protect yourself, okay? Yeah, I don't like being distrusted just because of stupid rumors, but it's best not to fuel the fire. Yeah, Rena, Kei-chan, you two should avoid going outside unless you have to. Also make sure you don't go out alone, and seal your home up tight. If anyone says anything inconsiderate, don't provoke them, no matter how frustrating. Got it? The hostile looks I felt from time to time were too much to pretend I just imagined them. The accursed customs of a village that had avoided contact with outsiders for centuries weren't about to be brushed away by a scant few years of civilization. Rena and I could only nod in acknowledgement of Mion's warning, the tense look clear on our faces. Looks. Showa 58 HQ, General Affairs Division. Director of Disaster Relief in Namizawa Region. Evacuations order emergency. The Director of Disaster Relief is to evacuate the disaster relief units immediately. During evacuation, units are to follow the directions of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. Notes. Orders. The disaster relief units will follow the directions of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases and evacuate to the designated zone outside of the quarantine. Reason? The routine blood tests detected a positive reaction for the type n173 virus in 4 squad members. This proves that the disaster relief unit's current equipment is ineffective at preventing infection. Showa 58. Commander. Dispatch orders. Test company. Deploy immediate version 13 disease prevention equipment under notes. Orders. As of today, placed under command, Namizawa Region. Director's orders. Mission. Peacekeeping in the quarantine zone. Remarks. Discharge of firearms will be authorized under the enclosed conditions. Alphabet Project. Board of Directors. Director of Disaster Relief in Namizawa Region. July 6, 1983. Regarding the n173 virus. This virus has been classified as a Category C, neuroparasitic virus. What follows is an explanation of its properties. Of all the viruses that infect the human nervous system, this one demonstrates extremely strong compatibility with mankind. Also, due to the difficulty in identifying symptoms in the infected, its existence was not confirmed until the modern age. According to an unofficial investigation conducted by the UN in 1948, over 99% of the human species contains this parasitic virus within their brains. Furthermore, it has been pointed out that it's likely that this virus has been with humanity from the beginning. As that all suggests, this virus is extremely well integrated into the human body, and the host is unaware of the parasite. This makes the virus very similar to other microbes within the human body, such as... let's call that E. coli, which is commonly known of today. However, the problem with this virus is that we have identified the possibility of this virus interfering with the host's brain functions. This virus makes its hosts amiable to other hosts of the same strain, and it directs its host to be antagonistic towards hosts of different strains. The UN investigation has discovered several hundred strains that would be classified under this virus, and another shocking fact was uncovered as well. The distribution map of these strains, oddly enough, matches up with present-day national borders and religious distributions. Furthermore, it is suspected that each strain of this virus is deeply involved in shaping the foundation of its host's behavior and personality. So the theory stands that the unique traits of this parasitic virus are responsible for several tendencies, generally attributed to race or nationality. In other words, this virus is theorized to be indirectly responsible for all the patterns within societies, personalities, and the cultures of different ethnicities and nations. The first to uncover the existence of this virus was a German doctor with the Nazi administration, and it is theorized that this discovery led to the administration's massacre of particular peoples. The UN Secret Investigation Committee has identified the possibility that this virus has indirectly led humanity to commit its most heinous atrocities, and they called for the extermination of this virus. That call being held back by the fear that such an objective could trigger ethnic cleansing. As a result, all research on the virus was perpetually prohibited in 1955, and they elected to discard the records of that research. This meant humanity would perpetually embrace this parasite and prohibit the further discovery of its existence as well. However, several countries continue to research the virus on their own in secret. Since there has been no exchange of information between these, the state of the research in other nations is unknown. Here in Japan, a research team was founded in secret by a group of medical schools in the late 1960s. Their research is the foundation for these current studies. America has caught wind that this virus is the cause of the most recent incident, and they will be planning to steal our research. We must not respond to their attempts to claim that research disguised as offers of aid. Furthermore, amongst the strains of this virus, strain n173 is a rare variety, which displays extremely dramatic symptoms. As I have already explained, traditionally this virus is extremely compatible with the human body and is totally unnoticeable. Yet the n173 strain causes dramatic alterations to the personality within several days of infection. The most significant change is the promotion of anxiety and aggression. Yet it retains the unique aspects of this virus, guiding those changes in psychology to occur naturally. The infected residents in the Namisawa region already tend to strongly exhibit those tendencies, and have demonstrated the potential to cause certain catastrophes, mass riots, mass murder, within short periods of time. Direction of this matter should immediately be given over to the Alphabet Project, and as such, it should be carefully investigated as one of our nation's assets. I am confident that research into this matter will contribute to our national interests. Furthermore, the suppression of riots caused by this matter can only be conducted by the Alphabet Board of Directors, which possesses extrajudicial authority. I hope that you will consider these factors before making your decision tomorrow. National Institute of Infectious Diseases, Head of Room 13 Iwashi. Why do I relieve troops infected? The virus is spread to those bringing food and water. July 11th. As the disturbing atmosphere towards the outsiders, like the Mabra family, grew stronger. feel like there's a lot of games in many different genres that can be made based off this game. Granted, I know I've made the comment about Shadow of War having a mod for this, about Hinamizawa, but I had another idea come to mind and I just immediately forgot it. I think it was something to do with Resident Evil. Like, what if you had a Resident Evil style game, but it was Higurashi? What if you had a game set in the style of like Resident Evil 2, but it was based on this? Well, we'll go and call the video for now. I hope. I did do a Let's Play of Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, blind also. And heck, my computer at least did okay with those. Though, while I might try some games in the future a little bit more graphically demanding than this game, and I will say that anything along the lines of Resident Evil, I'm not even going to bother trying because I know my computer will not handle it. But I might try a few games that are close to it, though that may be a bit of a laggy mess, so you guys might be watching a PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Let me know in the comments, what type of game would you want to see based off of Higurashi? Like Grand Theft Auto? A fighting game? I still want to see like Higurashi parodied by Rick and Morty. That'd be funny. And I still want to see the creators of this game to make a new Higurashi all these years later. Later.